Music Loves here, and today we're going to be talking about sound. How does sound work in beats and songs? It's one of our 5 major elements. So, what are the properties that it gives us in this? Why is it a major element? Well, sound does 2 really important things. First, sound translates emotion. So, if you were to write a piece, let's say you're writing this piece, you want it to sound really spacious and big and peaceful. You're probably going to choose a piano, but not just any piano. You're going to want it to be a soft, calm piano with a nice, soft attack to the notes. You don't want anything bright or harsh. Like you're gonna come up with the sound that you want. And whenever you're writing a song and you know the emotion you want, you know that emotion, I want you to sit down and just write out a list of the things that would describe that sound. And now you have a list of things that you can just go and make. You say, I want a sound. It can't do this. It's got to have a nice full mid-range and be really soft to my ears. Whatever sort of, this isn't to be super exact. It's to just get it all out on paper. And then now that it's there, you can go about trying to create that sound. So it translates emotion. If you ever work with an artist, it can be pretty funny. Right? Can you make that sound blue? Can you make that sound like the wind? Or dreamlike. I've gotten dreamlike a number of times. So then it's your job to figure out how it is. They're basically saying, take my emotion and make it into sound. The next one is a sound translates to where you're at. Consider Western movies. They have a sound to them. And consider some of it's mixing and mastering and production, but a lot of it's the source sound you pick and how you use that source sound. So sound by itself and how you use it. So in combination with harmony and with other elements. Okay, so we have that. So consider like desert house or tropical house. They have the locations in the name, and they're based on the sounds that you pick to make house music. So we understand that those are now our goals. So how can we use this directionally, creatively? So we say, okay, now how can I go about doing this? So let's say when you sit down to write a track, this means that you're going to sit there and you're going to say, what kind of emotion am I trying to convey? You write down that emotion. And then if you have some tracks you're thinking like, oh, I want to sound like Savant, or I want to sound like, I don't know, someone else. Then you're going to sit there and you're going to listen to some of their stuff and look at the sounds they used and be like, oh, they're using these types of sounds. If you can, pinpoint the exact sounds they're using. The VSTs, did they record it? Like, what did they do to get that sound? There are 3 methods to generating sound: synthesis, sampling, and recording. Recording, you have something out in the universe, a contraption of some kind, be it the human voice or a piano. You're going to record it. How they perform and record it in the physical space and makeup of that thing is going to create the sound. The next one, sampling. You're going to take something someone else has already recorded and usually made into a song, and then you're going to chop it up and you're going to use that as the bed for your song. So it's like an instrument instead of a song to you. There's also a variation on sampling where you sample each and every note and you try to reconstruct that instrument as if you had a performer play it. So for example, this thing right here is a sampled piano. Every note has been sampled so I can play it as an instrument without having an actual piano in front of me. So you get that. And then there's also synthesis. So you use math to generate sounds. And it really is that simple. So math generates sounds. And the more math you know, the more power you have over synthesis, the more you understand about acoustics and how that works, the more you can do with synthesizers and just understanding filters, things of that nature. So there's the world of synthesis. And I have a separate series I have several of them on synthesis. Just look up any of the sound design with, and then any from the ground up series, or learn Iris 2, learn whatever it is. So these subjects are massive. They're so huge, but those are the ways you can generate sounds. And I highly recommend picking one and studying it. You will get so much out of it. A lot of people know how to just run one synthesizer really well. Like someone will know Massive or Serum like the back of their hand. They'll be like, I know how to get any sound that I really want to make out of it. Because each method has its pros and cons, and it's usually linked with the genre. A lot of people love Nexus because it's using sampling, similar to the way this piano's been done, only this is with Kontakt, and they just know the sounds that are in Nexus, and those are the ones they work with. You don't have to have every single sound in the universe to be able to make a cool song. In this song, there's there's not that many sounds. There's only a couple. So, okay, so you pick out your sounds, and then you say, all right, now I've got to use harmony and melody and all of this stuff to make it what I want. So here, let's look at an example here. And I just want you to think when I play this for you, what is the emotional response you have without being sarcastic? Because you're listening to this in a way that's pretty like scrutinizing. And the other thing I want you to pay attention to is where do you feel like you are? And I'd like you to put this in the comments. Like just drop it down below. So here we go. Oh, that's not how it's supposed to end. It's still loading. I also had a part over here where the samples didn't load. And so it like cut off all the samples. But anyways, you get the idea. You were given some sort of a place and an emotion tied with it. Sort of got this airy feel. At the time I was writing a lot of sounds that had a similar sound to this. That brings up an interesting point is songs together with the production value will create an overall sound of the song, an overall vibe. That's where the Western vibe sort of exists. But each sound individually will have its own vibe, and it can be used to combine with other sounds to create entirely new emotions in new places. And so these are mostly sampled instruments. You heard obviously there is some synthesis going on in here. I was picturing some sort of space like place. And then over here, it becomes really obvious. I feel like I'm in space. But maybe you got something totally different. Maybe you have some sort of emotional event in your life that relates to the sound differently than mine does to space. So my quest to you is to take some stuff that you have written and identify why you chose the sounds you chose deliberately, because maybe you've just sort of been going off emotion. And that's really great. That's where the root of this generally comes from. But just make some conscious decisions. That way, next time when you're trying to make a sound or establish a sort of feeling that you want, you can pick a particular sound. And when you're doing that, also, we didn't cover a lot of things like how the sound combines with the rhythm and the melody, how the sound combines with something else. You'll find that certain sounds are very suitable for certain purposes. So that's just how it is. So we have like pad sounds, usually long, open sounds, where melodic sounds generally have nice attacks, but they can be varied. You might not always have one with a nice attack. Maybe you have a trumpet that has something where it's like, yeah, yeah, instead of a don, don. Maybe you cut the beginning off a trumpet and you get an entirely different sound out of it. So you have a lot of options. But anyways, that's my challenge to you. Go identify some and list what you have learned in the comments. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.